Hey guys! As I mentioned in my Barbie tier list video, I am going to be ranking all the Barbie movie villains and putting them into a tier list based on how evil they are. So I think this will be a really interesting video, so sit down, grab yourself a bowl of popcorn or a snack and prepare yourself for an eye-opening experience. So once again, starting off in 2001 with Barbie in the Nutcracker with the villain, the Mouse King. The Mouse King is essentially just an evil dictator. He took over Parthenia, ruled with an iron fist, and turned anyone who disobeyed him into stone or some sort of ornament, and he also turned the rightful heir, Prince Eric, into a nutcracker, so, you know, not good. He also had his men destroy an entire village full of innocent people. He also trapped a load of fairies in a well to prevent them from using their magic and keeping, like, the land like really healthy and stuff. So yeah, not a good guy. He is a really bad guy, but I don't think it was executed that well. But that being said, it was the first movie in the BCU, so I think we can forgive it. But all in all, I think I'm placing it in the D tier. Moving on to 2002 with Barbie as Rapunzel and the villain Gothel. Now, Gothel is a terrible person, but I do love how they decided to give her a backstory in all this. Her story is that she actually fell in love with Rapunzel's father when they were younger, but since he didn't return those feelings, she decided to take it out on him. So she kidnapped Rapunzel as a baby, locked her up in a manor behind a magic wall in a deep dark forest. Like, in the movie, she literally says, "She would have been my daughter if you married me. I simply took what was mine." Not the best way to cope with heartbreak, if you ask me. But you know, do you, I guess? Not only did she kidnap Rapunzel, but she mentally abused her whole life. She destroyed the things she cared about if she wasn't happy with Rapunzel's work around the house. Typical narcissistic parent behaviour. But you know, not only was she an abusive parent, she was also an animal abuser. She abused her dragon Hugo and his daughter Penelope, and he also attempted to imprison Rapunzel forever in a tower by putting a spell on the tower with the intention of keeping her in, but since that didn't fucking work, Rapunzel escaped and, you know, she ended up being trapped in the tower. Karma, I guess. And to put a cherry on the top of the cake, that is Gothel's crimes, she also attempted to murder Rapunzel's boyfriend, shall we say, Prince Stefan, and attempted to kill his younger siblings. She literally tried to kill children. So yeah, she's a very, very, very bad woman. I think Gothel deserves to be put in the A tier, with all the attempted murder, the kidnapping, the abuse inflicted on animals and humans. I think it's justified. Not to mention she just has the look for a good villain. Moving on to 2003 with Rothbart from Barbie A Swan Lake. Now, I think Rothbart is pretty mid, all things considered. Essentially, he just didn't get what he wanted, and he threw a massive tantrum causing him to turn evil. Like, he's just a giant man baby because the king didn't pick him to be his successor. Grow a pair. That being said, what he does is not cool at all. Like, child labor. He forces some of the Fairy Queen's elf children to build his new palace. Very bad form, if you ask me. He turns innocent people into animals. Like, what? And he attempts to assassinate our main character, Odette, multiple times. Like, he's a mid-villain and not cool. I don't like him. So, because of all that, I'm putting him in the D tier. Next is a lot of people's favourite villain. We have Preminger from Barbie and the Princess and the Pauper. This man is so unhinged, and he's an icon for it. Like, look at him. Anyways, what did he do? He stole all the kingdom's gold, making it go bankrupt, which is pretty bad. He kidnaps the princess and hides her until it's convenient to bring her back so he can be rewarded with her hand in marriage. Not to mention there is most definitely a big age gap there. Ick. He also traps the princess and Julian in the royal mines with the intention of just leaving them there.
We got there, we'll have to.
Okay. The struggle of living at home with your parents. That's not going in. He also traps the princess and Julian in the royal mines with the intention of just leaving them there to starve. Great. He also forces the queen into marrying him. Mega ick. Not to mention he has like no riz at all. Like, I'm sure he's like, you know. The song that he sings though is an absolute fucking banger. Like, I'm pretty sure it was trending for a while in TikTok back in 2021. But okay. I'm not sure if it was totally trending, but it was trending on my side of TikTok, so therefore it was trending. So, where does Preminger place is the real question on this tier list. I feel like I'm not biased because I did not have the same connection with this movie that everyone else had as a kid. I think he deserves to be in the C tier. There's way worse on this list, so bear with me here, okay? We're like 3 villains in out of like 15, okay? I don't know how many there are, I forgot. Next is the Fairytopia trilogy with Laverna. Now, Laverna was the villain over the course of 3 movies, so she has done a lot of shit, so let's start at the beginning, shall we? She poisons her sister, kidnaps the Enchantress's 7 guardians of Fairytopia, infected thousands of fairies and took away their power to fly, as well as poisoned all the plants, and that's just one movie! In the next movie, she orders her henchmen to poison the waters of Mermadia, had her henchmen steal a magic berry that could make her invulnerable to all magic, past, present, and future. So, not good. Not to mention her henchmen, as goofy as they are, they took a mermaid, brought him out of the water, and hung him upside down. He could have fucking died. He was drying out. Like, they were slowly killing him. And finally, her last set of crimes. She poisoned 7 guardians. She kidnapped an apprentice and kept her underwater for days. Used her body and pretended to be her. She attempted to murder Alina and plunge Fairytopia into 10 years of winter. A lot of crimes. So many. I love Laverna as a villain. She just looks so cool. She just absolutely serves. So I think she's on top of the pyramid this week. S tier. Next is Wenlock from Barbie and the Magic of Pegasus. Where do I begin with this man? He was just an incel that went mad with power, but he was a very abusive husband to his 3 wives. He turned them into goblins and made them his slaves. He also buried our main character Annika alive, turned her sister into a Pegasus, and turned a whole kingdom to stone because she refused to marry him. This is why men suck. I'm just kidding. I love men. Don't call me anti-men. He isn't the most feared villain on this tier list, and he looks pretty cool before he gets turned back into the original incel. So I think I'm going to be generous and put him in the C tier. Next up is Raquel from the Barbie Diaries. Honestly, there's nothing special here. She's just the stereotypical mean girl. Like, what? She just waves the man candy in front of Barbie, which I will admit I have experienced firsthand, and it's not pleasant at all. But when you consider what she's up against here on this list, she is the weakest one. So F tier is the only valid answer. Moving on to Duchess Rowena from Barbie and the 12 Dancing Princesses. This woman angers me in so many ways. Just what she does is absolutely awful. She shows up to the castle with no intention of leaving. She dehumanizes the princesses by deliberately calling them the wrong names, taking them taking away any form of individuality by not letting them enjoy their hobbies and making them all wear the same grey clothes. All while she's doing this, she is also poisoning their father with the intention of taking over the kingdom. As well as this, she's also stealing their dead mother's things and selling them to pay her bills. What? The cruelty of this woman is beyond me. Like, how could anyone do that? So I think Rowena comes in on the B tier. Next would have to be one of my favourite villains, Queen Ariana from Barbie as the Island Princess. This woman is so cold, just from the way she looks, the way she acts, even the song she sings. It explains her whole deal. It's such a banger. Then you listen to the lyrics and then you realize how fucking dark it is. Like, wow. I was watching this when I was a kid and I was there bopping along to the song. Like, yeah. Yikes. Anyways, first off, her family tried to kill the king when she was a kid, and she described that in their song as a little treason, not a lot. She poisoned all the animals in the kingdom and blamed it on Ro because herself and her animals were foreign. She also attempted to poison everyone at her daughter's wedding, which was the whole kingdom, as well as mentally abusing her daughter, who, by the way, she only had so she can marry the prince and become queen, so she can control her daughter as she's queen. Like, wow. Excuse me. Gotta give it to her. She really is dedicated to this plan of hers. Her song is a banger. And just with the thought that she put into her plan, she deserves to be up in the A tier. Like, she had a daughter with just for the intention that she'd be the one the prince marries. Like, oh my god. But yeah, Queen Ariana, definitely up in the A tier. Next villain is Henna from Barbie Mariposa and her butterfly fairy friends. I love this movie, but I will admit Henna is not the strongest villain, unfortunately. Henna was tired of serving the queen because she wanted to be one, so she poisons the queen, which causes the lights in Butterfield to go out, which puts everyone under the threat of being eaten by the Skeezites, which are her henchmen. She sets the Skeezites on innocent people and she attempts to destroy the antidote to save the queen. It makes me sad how she isn't the strongest villain, because because honestly she just looks really pretty and she just has the best evil smirk ever. Despite all of that, I think I'm going to put her in the C tier. Now on to Lydia from Barbie and the Diamond Castle. This woman serves. She just looks evil, and it's such a look. Even her evil lair and her flying serpent. She just has such evil bitch energy, and I'm here for it. So Lydia didn't want to share the power of the Diamond Castle with anyone else, and she wanted to be the one and only muse. After she left, she found an ancient cave filled with magic and turned her already magic flute into an instrument of darkness, which, if you hear her play it, it'll put you into a trance and it'll make you her servant to do her bidding, which is horrifying to think about. Like, she literally told the two main characters, once they were put under the spell, to drown themselves, as well as getting her flying serpent to push them off a cliff into lava. They survived, by the way. Like, hello? Just for the coldness of that and how OP her flute is, I think she's being put into the A tier. Next on the list is Eden from Barbie and A Christmas Carol. It could be argued that Eden's Aunt Marie is the real villain of the story. In Eden's case, it's the abused becomes the abuser. Yes, Eden is mean, but let's be for real. Making people work Christmas Day, which no one wants to do, but making people work Christmas Day compared to the atrocities that other people on this list have committed, it's nowhere near the same. As the original tale goes, Eden does redeem herself in the end. She was just abused by her aunt when she was a kid, and we really do feel bad for her once we see what she's been through, like, throughout the movie. Like, it's really sad. I don't think she's a real villain. She's just been through some childhood trauma. So I'm gonna put her in the E tier. Moving on to Barbie Presents Thumbelina. Technically there is 2 villains here, so I'm just gonna go through them both, despite the movie trying to paint the construction workers as the real villains here. I think McKenna's parents are actually the real villains, and I'll explain why. This movie tries to make us think the construction workers are the real villains in the story. They just make them really mean and stuff. But even then, they're just trying to do their jobs, but they're constantly getting sabotaged by seemingly nothing. So of course they're gonna get pissed. You'd get pissed too. But in reality, McKenna's parents are the real villains for many reasons. Firstly, they wanted to build a factory that would destroy so much wildlife. Secondly, the pollution from said factory would just make things even worse. Besides that, they are severely neglectful parents. They spoil their daughter in hopes it would keep her happy while they're so wrapped up in their work and their stupid factory. They're the real villains in my mind. I'm going to put both on this tier list. So the construction workers are in the E tier because they were just trying to do their job, and, like, you know, they weren't really harming anyone. Like, they had to do what they were doing because they were being paid to, otherwise they'd be fired, you know. As for McKenna's parents, they are going in the C tier because it's people like them that are turning our world into an industrial dystopian hellscape. And besides that, being bad parents, it really fucks up your kids' lives. So C tier for them. Next up for judgment is Philippe from Barbie and the Three Musketeers. It just makes it better that this villain is voiced by Tim Curry. Anyways, this man attempted murder 3 times. The first, by dropping a chandelier on the prince, which failed. The next attempt was by sabotaging the prince's hot air balloon by cutting the ropes. And finally, attempting to stab the prince at his masquerade ball. As well as that, he planned to push the main character Corinne off the roof of the castle. All this because he was stuck next in line for the throne, and he felt he deserved more than his cousin because his cousin was a dreamer and an inventor. Talk about some jealousy issues. Anyways, so all that because he was jealous, which is pretty bad. Not to mention he was attacking his own family. Now this is a tough call, but I think I'm going to put him in the B tier. Next villain up is Eris from Barbie and A Mermaid's Tale 1 and 2. We love an underwater tyrant. Jealousy of members of your family seems to be a trend on this list. So what did Eris do? She imprisoned her sister and made an entire kingdom think that their queen abandoned them and took over. She forced her sister to make Marilia for her because she couldn't do it and she'd be poisoning the ocean if she didn't. Imprisoned hundreds of innocent merfolk to instill fear and maintain control. And this is just one movie. In the next movie, she makes people's worst nightmares come true. She sank her sister to the bottom of the ocean. She imprisoned a claustrophobic person in a tight space. She enslaved a group of giant fish to do her bidding. She trapped an innocent girl inside a whirlpool to free herself. Yikes. This is a tough one. I'm thinking B tier because of the crimes. Because her crimes were pretty bad. Especially when she imprisoned all those innocent people knowingly. Yeah, I think it's the B tier. Next is Jacqueline from Barbie and a Fashion Fairy Tale. Now, Jacqueline isn't the worst on the list. She's in the same ballpark as McKenna's parents. All she does is copy real designers and she uses all her money for publicity and advertising, making the press love her. She's just doing what big corporations and the fast fashion industry do. Besides that, the worst thing she does is kidnap the fairies, which is still bad, but there is way worse on this list. She gets her redemption at the end of this movie and she does become a better person and she stops doing what she's doing. So I think she is in the C tier still. Our next villain is Crystal for Barbie and a Fairy Secret. Crystal herself is bland as fuck. Her motive was good though. Unrequited love stings like a bitch and it does make you do questionable things. The motive was so good, but I feel like they could have done so much more with it and it had the chance to be so much better. She essentially slipped the princess a love potion, making the princess think she was in love with Ken, and while the princess was occupied with Ken, she wanted to steal her mans. Not good, but you guys know what she's up against here. The Council of Kiki says D tier. Our final villain for this list is Dame Devon from Barbie Princess Charm School. Dame Devon, in my opinion, is the worst villain on this list, and you guys will see in just a second. She is the only villain on this list that actually killed to get what she wants. She didn't just kill one person though, she killed an entire family. She did this as revenge because she wasn't picked to be a Lady Royal by her own sister-in-law and she wasn't in line for the throne. She killed an entire family just so her daughter could be in line for the throne and have what she didn't have. Like, oh my god. I just love how there is Princess Diana parallels to this movie because it was a car crash that killed the family. It's just so clever and I love it. But yeah, anyways, there's literal blood on this woman's hands. So, without a doubt, S tier villain. I'm talking with my hands a lot today. I'm very riled up. And for those of you who are wondering why her daughter Delancey isn't on this list, it's because she isn't the real villain of the story, even though she's made out to be. But she comes to her senses when she realizes there's something wrong. So, and even then, if she was to be on this list, she'd be on the same level as Raquel because she's just a mean girl. Unlike her mother, who literally killed people. Anyways, that's the whole list. Let's take a look, shall we? So this was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button to see me on your feed again. And don't forget to hit that bell button to be notified when I decide to bless the internet with my presence again. I will see you guys really soon. Bye! Why is my camera dying? Ah! Thank God for spare camera batteries.